Hola guys, I'm back and there is some news we're going to cover, actually a bunch of it that we can look through. Now it's all in the form of images. This first video is going to focus on Jack Lusted's Macedon campaign playthrough. This is essentially what he says. It's part one, and he puts us through a kind of a series of images with description. So let's go ahead and look through it. So it's going to start off right here in 272 BC. And you basically start off with two cities. The capital is Pella, and he says that his faction leader is Antigonus Gonadas. Might as well call him Captain Gonads. And over here, yeah, you can see in the background, you can see his second city, Pulpudeva. And yeah, he's going to go through and sort of start developing his city. Now, the first tab he's going to look at is going to be this one here, where he kind of looks at, okay, what's the scope of my area? So it's kind of cool where at first you're centered in this small hub and the rest of the world is unknown to. So you kind of have to deal with your local politics, and then later you'll have to deal with managing an empire. But for now, it's kind of smaller scale. So here you can see the various nations, and in the next image, what you'll see is he kind of, I think he clicks a tab which kind of gives you the diplomatic relations, and the ones in white are sort of neutral factions. The ones in blue are somehow connected to you in an allied way. So, for example, if you look at Athens, the owl, apparently they're a client state, and Sparta are his defensive allies. So you can have these different networks and things that you can do with relations. The defensive allies is really cool. That's something that's new. So the way it works is you're kind of both agreeing to help defend each other, but I think past that you don't have much like it's not as far as a client state, and as far as full allies I don't think you have like the ability to pass through their lands with your troops and stuff like that. So it's kind of like an in-between where you agree to fight a greater power. And if you look to the east, sort of towards where yeah, it's the east where you have that red territory, that's going to be Silas, and apparently he's at war with them at first. So first order of business is going to be developing his cities. So he says at Pella he basically starts developing the city center line, and Pulpudeva gets the barracks where he can recruit more units. So he says his main goal is basically to start developing these two cities in terms of military. They're going to be his core production centers, which is a smart idea. And he says any later conquered territories are going to be turned into sort of subservient areas where he'll focus on agriculture, industry, and culture. So that's probably what you're going to have to do, because in each building you can't upgrade everything. You can't be an agrarian, cultural, and a military power. You have to focus on certain things. Next, he's going to talk about how he's going to start diving into the technologies. So right here, he's going to research logistics, which is kind of the first step that unlocks the later tech trees. So again, you can go between the more military or cultural. Here he's going to start off with military just to get his conquest rolling, but at any time you can switch to civil line. So what he says here is he'll go into the military line for a couple of techs until the second tier buildings are unlocked, and then he'll switch to civil. So you can see he already has some strategy going. Next is going to be some of the traits. He's going to focus on what Macedon has as its benefit. And in this tab, you'll be able to see kind of how many armies and dignitaries and agents you'll be able to have, how many fleets are open to you, and sort of what the bonuses of your faction are. So, for example, Macedon as a successor kingdom has +10 morale when fighting against Hellenic forces. And then also they have the benefit of having Alexander's legacy, -20% resistance to foreign occupation. That's going to be really good for conquering nations where you won't have to deal with unrest. And then next, what he talks about is he's going to start strengthening his armies. So he's going to start sending out troops and basically, you know, just reinforcing them with basic units, levy pikemen, javelins, and slingers, and then militia hoplites. So he's building up his forces, and he's also recruiting mercenaries, preparing for war. Then here he says basically that one of his spies has noticed that the Epirotes are starting to summon forces, so it's starting to make him a little bit wary that they might be launching an attack. Next, what happens is, I think Sparta approaches him, and although they don't have very good relations, Sparta is basically asking for him to join in a war against the Epirotes. So that's cool how factions will kind of reach out to you and try and bring you into wars, and it'll hopefully sort of steer you along the way. And Jack says at this point that, you know, he's kind of worried about opening too many fronts, but then again, you know, it should be a relatively easy conquest, especially with the Spartans helping him and Athens potentially offering up some soldiers, because of course you can coordinate with your allies, tell them when and where to attack, and they'll do their best to try and help you, which is pretty awesome. Next is going to be, again, looking at technologies as he's waiting to recruit his armies. He's going to work on organization in terms of the tech tree. So once you unlock logistics, then you have these three sort of branches to do. So one is management, one is, oh God, I can't remember what the second one is. It's probably something to do with tactics or formations. And then the third one is going to be siege. So you have your basic unlock for the three sort of tech paths within military, and then within those you have three additional ones, and then within that you can kind of progress along the way. So it's a very, very diverse tech tree system, which is awesome. So next he's going to say how he sends one of his armies to go attack Anthea, and he's going to bring in some mercenaries, and he says he's going to wait a turn before attacking the city, thinking that he'll wear them out. But something that's a new dynamic is actually besieging forces are going to suffer from attrition, so his forces are going to start losing, and he all of a sudden realizes his mistake. Because the city he's besieging is actually attached to a port, as long as that port is not blockaded, they can get fresh supplies, so they won't actually suffer from attrition. So the next turn he begins to assault. And then next he talks about how another one of his armies is going to move towards Larissa, and here you can see the Athenians are providing help. So they're going to quickly move in and basically be able to capture the city very easily. There aren't many Epirot forces. And once he takes it over, he's going to basically upgrade the city center at Pella and to keep promoting his culture. Next, he says that one of his spies spots another agent, and he tries to take action in terms of a temptation, but it doesn't work. It only hinders the enemy agent. So I'm guessing that means the enemy agent either can't move or they'll disappear for a couple turns. He says his agent also levels up. Then he also says he's going to carry on with his assaults. And one of his commanders gets upgraded, so he's going to add a skill to them, and he gives them the commander skill, which is +1 authority. Authority, I think, is for your overall faction. It'll kind of help you with your prestige, and I think in terms of the general individually, I think more authority will actually give greater morale, but I'm not sure about that. Then he says he's kind of spotting a fleet from Tylis kind of navigating along the coast, and they have an army, so he's kind of worried what they're going to do. At the same time, the Odrysia to the north declares war on him, so all of a sudden, there's a ton of stuff going down. He's basically having war all of a sudden, so kind of worried about these more opening fronts, but he'll go ahead and accept it. Next, this is really important. He says how one of his generals basically is gone, so something happened. Either he died from old age, but more plausibly, it seems like one of his enemies has assassinated the general or taken him out of action. So what's cool about this actually is, look at this here. Basically, once your general dies, people are wondering what happens, and essentially you get to choose from available generals. So in this case, it's Odysseus's Wanderers. And look how you look below. You can select the special bodyguard unit. So not only do you get to select which is your general, so what his traits are, what his name is, but you can also select his bodyguards. And what's cool about this is you can have various types of troops. So on the very left, it looks more like a hoplite. Then you can have cavalry. Then you can have actually like a skirmishing general, which I never would have suspected. And on the very right, it's another sort of hoplite guy. Maybe it's a Sarissa troop. Look at his spear. It's much, much longer. So that's cool. You can individualize your bodyguards. Next is going to be an event, which is a flood. It's going to destroy, basically it's going to affect a region. Here you can see Pulpu Deva is going to have, it's going to be in need of some repairs. Also look at this menu here, where he's basically showing off the bar for Thracia. He only owns 2 of the settlements, so in order to put into effect edicts, he's going to have to conquer those other 2 territories. Next image is going to be Odrysia has besieged Anthea with the Tylis army on the transport fleet blockading the port. So they're kind of working together to attack him. But in any case, he says he's going to send off one of his fleets to deal with them, but it may or may not be strong enough. Next, he's going to talk about how he's going to keep progressing along with his military tech, as well as moving on to a new civil one. So for here, the unlock for civil technology is going to be land reclamation, which basically improves your agriculture and your wealth and stuff like that. So it's good to see him progressing in these various ways. Then he's going to say that actually Egypt has declared war on him, so things are going from bad to worse. He's going to find himself at war with the known world. Then he talks about how he's sending out his forces here, gonna go attack finally Larissa, and the Epirotes are sallying out basically on the last turn, and they're suffering from attrition. At the same time, he basically that is Jacques, not Jacques. We're not speaking Jacques. Jack, excuse me, has the Athenians actually offering help, so he's gonna basically auto-resolve because it's a pretty straightforward victory. And once he is victorious, he's going to be able to have he's going to enslave the population, essentially sending out captives to his entire empire and sort of boosting his economic performance. Although if you have too many of them, they will affect public order. And in taking this, basically, he's captured Mount Olympus, and here you can see a world of the wonder has been conquered. He can add it to his empire, and it'll have some bonuses for his entire empire. So that's really cool. That's going to be part one, guys. Stay tuned for more. I have some really cool images that someone sent me the link to. It's something I've never seen before. It's like 85 new images. Really, really cool. So stay tuned for that, and I'll get back to you guys later. Thanks so much.